And the final one that we're going to look at in terms of a use case is Copilot in Excel. So Copilot in Excel, one of the things that's probably worth calling out is it's currently still in preview. You'll see when we go into the Copilot blade. But what we've got here in this document is we've got two different sets of data. And if I think about Excel, there are more buckets than this, but I typically find you're either a power user or you're a power avoider. Like if somebody says the word pivot table, there's a U-shaped hole in the door. You might come out in a cold sweat. What Copilot in Excel allows for is more of a democratization of capability. It is still in preview. There's a lot more features coming to it. The ability to be able to engage with Python in Excel through natural language. But as I say, there's already quite some capability there, and we'll take a look through some of them. So here what we've got is we've got some information about different products. We've got road bikes in this circumstance, their price, their production cost, different attributes of those bikes. But one of the things I've spotted, I don't have a profit margin. I can't actually see what my profit margin is on these particular products. So I'm asking Copilot, not with great grammar, can you add a column for me that shows my profit margin? So now what Copilot will do is it will go to work. It will understand from my ask, right, what are the formulas that I might need to use? Now I'm okay in Excel. I probably would have been okay to do this myself, but Copilot can do that lifting for me. But for some people, actually, they would have looked at it and thought, right, okay, I'm not sure on how I get it to show me my profit margin. And they might have then picked up a conversation with somebody else, taking the time out of two people's diary to get to that outcome. Whereas actually Copilot has indicated here what we need to do is we need to take the current price, remove the production cost, and then divide by the current price, and we'll get our profit margin as a percentage. And it explains that calculation. And I've got the ability now to insert that column. So I've inserted the column, it's got me my profit margin. I can now see that I'm making 20% 30%. Oh, okay, that one doesn't look good. Minus 1.65, and actually there's a few minuses in here. So I've got an understanding of my profit margins, but there are some challenges that I can see. So one of the things for any Excel junkies, you don't really need to be an Excel junkie, but for anybody that is fairly proficient in Excel, you might be familiar with, is something called conditional formatting. If you find a cell that is below 10%, I want it to be red, and if you find a cell that's above 10%, I want it to be green. I've asked Copilot to add the color green to exactly those circumstances, above 10%, and make it red if it's below 10%. Now, what you'll notice here is I haven't said conditionally format these cells. I haven't said conditionally format this column. I haven't told it the column number. I've asked it to make the profit margins green if they're above 10% and red if they're below. However, actually what Copilot has done in this circumstance, if we look at the rules, is applied conditional formatting. So again, democratizing that capability. The individual doesn't need to know what the feature is called within Excel in order to get Copilot to help them with it. Now, another thing that I'm aware of in this circumstance, actually, we've been having a conversation with suppliers, and our production costs, we look as if we're going to be able to lower those production costs because we've got a better rate on our bike frames. So I'm going to ask Copilot for a theoretical here. Can you add a column that helps me see the new profit margin if we were to reduce production costs by 10%? What are we going to be looking like in that circumstance? Again, I think I would be relatively okay in executing that action. However, creating that democratization, ensuring that individuals through natural language can start to interrogate the data that they have in front of them, giving us the overview of that formula. I think the key thing to think about here within Excel is currently, when you're engaging with Copilot, it only works when the data is presented in a table. You might have seen a couple of times where I've selected out of the table, it says I need to work in a table. If it finds data that is not in a table format, it will make the recommendation of changing it to a table, but it will only be able to reason over that data when it's in a table currently. And the other thing I'm going to ask it here is, like, actually now I'm kind of wanting to make sure that I've got my conditional formatting. hasn't remembered that I've asked it for profit margin previously, and therefore the reasoning I might want it applied to the new profit margin. I still need to tell Copilot that particular piece of information. But again, through natural language, I've got the ability to be able to create that instruction. So I'm not necessarily in the green on these products still, but actually in a lot of circumstances, I'm looking better. I'm starting to turn a profit, but there are still a few challenges that I think I need to address. Now, the other things to think about is with regards to just data insights. So we're going to look at data insights in a couple of different ways. We're going to look at it by asking a specific question now. So can you tell me which bike model has the highest profit margin? Again, the relatively lengthy list of different products, something that Copilot can help with that lifting on to be able to return the information. And actually, in this circumstance, it's not any one particular product. There is a number of products. But what it's done is it's created a table for me, showing me the products that have the largest profit margin. And actually, there's an array of them. I have the ability to add that to a new sheet. I'm not going to do that in this circumstance, but I want to fact check what it is that Copilot stated. Have I got a range of different bikes that match these particular model numbers that indicate that there's a 36% profit margin? So I'm asking Copilot to sort that profit margin column. And yes, that looks accurate. I've got a raft of different products that are at that 36% profit margin. Now, the other point around insights that I mentioned, sometimes you don't necessarily have the insights available, or you can't think about what it is that you want it to tell you. You can ask Copilot to just show you data insights. What can it pull from the information that it's got in front of it? And we're looking at some customer sales based information here. Typically, I find has worked better in my scenario than looking at an inventory of different specifications. But what we can see in this circumstance, it's created me a graph. I can add it to a sheet, but I can see that actually our sale price has increased over time. That's promising. Might need to do a bit more diving as to understand why. But one of the things you also can do is just add all insights to grid. Allow Copilot to go to work and present you with multiple different insights. You'll see the screen flickering about a little bit as Copilot's beavering away. What it's done here is it's created me a new tab with various different tables linked to pivots, helping with insights relating to that data. France leading the way on units sold. Being in the UK, I might need to pull my finger out and figure out why France are ahead. Discount band medium has a noticeably higher sale price, so we're giving more discount than if it was low, but actually our sales price is greater. What do we need to think about there? Frequency of units sold. Typically when we're selling units, we're selling between 6 to 11 units. How do I up that ante? Is it something relating to discount banding? Is discount banding being used as medium in more circumstances in that 6 to 11 bracket? But it helps me with these insights so that I can then move forward with internal decision making, take this information into a PowerPoint, into an email, into an internal meeting to help drive the conversation forward. As I mentioned, democratizing capability through natural language in the Excel application.